Horror icon, killer doll, friend till the end. Chucky has been going strong since the late 1980s, and he doesn't show any signs of slowing down his reign of terror. Wanna play? UCLA film student Don Mancini wrote the script that will become Child's Play in 1985. Originally conceived as a satire of the marketing industry, the screenplay was about a doll who became the manifestation of a repressed little boy's id, carrying out brutal vengeance on anyone the child held malice for. Originally titled Batteries Not Included, it was changed to Blood Buddy to avoid conflict with a Steven Spielberg-produced movie of the same name. Around this time, producer David Kirshner was looking for a new project. Having always been fascinated and frightened by dolls, he was interested in making a film about them. Kirshner got his start as an illustrator for Jim Henson before producing the wonderful animated film An American Tail. In the supplemental material included on the Child's Play DVD, he explained that he was given a development deal with Disney under the assumption that he would continue to produce family-friendly entertainment. The first project he presented to them was Blood Buddy. While the movie did not end up getting made by Disney, Kirshner did not give up. Taking Mancini's general description in the script for the good guy doll, he designed the figure that we have come to know as Chucky. Feeling the script needed some changes, he brought on Fright Night filmmaker Tom Holland and the late screenwriter John Lafayette to take another pass at the material. While talking about 80s horror movies with Daily Deed, Tom Holland explained that every director turned down Child's Play, saying, "It was considered to be such a stupid, cheesy, exploity premise that nobody wanted to do it." After signing on, Holland was tasked with making the audience believe that the doll was truly evil. So he created the character of serial killer Charles Lee Ray. The rewrite also resulted in bizarre voodoo mythology that Don Mancini wasn't thrilled with, but had to accept. Holland brought Chris Sarandon with him from Fright Night to play police officer Mike Norris. Future Seventh Heaven actress Catherine Hicks was hired as Andy's mom Karen, and Andy was played by young actor Alex Vincent. In his audition, Vincent continuously pretended to forget a line because he did not feel comfortable cursing. The actor believes it was his ability to convince the producers that he forgot the line that led him to getting the role. Brad Dourif, probably best known at the time for his role in the classic One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, was cast as Charles Lee Ray. He physically portrayed Chucky the doll in rehearsals as well, although another actor was brought in to voice the character in post-production. Audiences didn't respond well, however, so Dourif was brought back. With the exception of the remake, he has been playing Chucky ever since. Mancini was brought back to pen the script for Child's Play 2, with the first film's co-screenwriter John Lafayette signing on to direct. Both men agreed it would be best to minimize the voodoo mythology as much as possible. The sequel also gave Mancini the chance to bring back certain elements from his original draft, like the climax taking place in the very factory where the doll was assembled. Producer David Kirshner wanted to push the special effects envelope even further. In the production notes included on the DVD, special effects artist Kevin Yeager said, "In order to make Chucky's speech more realistic, we shot the film at 18 frames per second instead of 24 when Chucky is talking. This allowed them to slow things down and sync the dialogue with the mouth movements more effectively." In the film, Andy is taken in by a foster family since his mother has been committed to an asylum following the events of the original. He forms a bond with his older foster sister, Kyle, who would return later in the series. Kyle was played by actress Christine Elise. It was her first big film role and she loved every minute of it. Later in life, Alex Vincent told her he remembered her as the person who was nicest to him. Released on August 30th, 1991, Child's Play 3 hit theaters only 9 months after its predecessor. Strangely though, the character had been aged up quite a bit. In this third film, Andy Barkley isn't a traumatized little kid, but a teenager in military school. Don Mancini explained the creative decision, jokingly comparing it to a common trope of rapidly aging characters in soap operas. The intention was to avoid becoming repetitive by having every movie be about Chucky going after the same little boy or developing Andy more as a character. According to that same interview, Mancini also liked the idea of setting the film in a rigidly structured setting like a military academy because it gave Chucky more authority figures to go after, similar to his original conceit for the series. The film garnered some controversy in the UK when it was baselessly cited as the inspiration for a horrendous murder. It wasn't very well received critically either. According to Rotten Tomatoes, it is still the most poorly reviewed installment of the series. It would be another 7 years before we got another movie starring Chucky. And after the next film, the series would never be the same. Following the success of Scream, the horror genre was reinvigorated. Not only did several copycat movies try to cash in on the film's high concept, but there was a concentrated effort to be self-referential, meta, and more stylized. It was in this new atmosphere that 1998's Bride of Chucky was able to take the Child's Play franchise in a bold new direction. David Kirshner credits the cover art for a video of the Bride of Frankenstein as inspiring him to discuss the possibility of creating a love interest for Chucky with Don Mancini. Like the classic Universal horror sequel, there would be more humor this time around as well. Regarding the more comedic tone of the film, Don Mancini said he structured it like a romantic comedy by making it about misunderstandings between characters who keep getting themselves into pickles. To kick the visual style way up, director Ronnie Yu was brought in. At the time, he had been known for his film The Bride with White Hair, and he connected with the visual descriptions and the script, feeling it was very similar to his directing style. Having a second doll also presented new technical challenges. It required an even bigger team of puppeteers, and Tiffany's slender design left very little room for the motors and wires required to operate her. It was worth it, however, as Tiffany has proven to be an indelible character for the franchise going forward.
Take it from me, honey. Plastic is no substitute for a nice hunk of wood.
Don Mancini wrote the part of Tiffany for Jennifer Tilly, even though he didn't know her at the time. According to Jennifer Tilly's diary, which was included in the special features for the Bride of Chucky DVD, she wasn't overly thrilled with the idea at first. After calling her manager to find out why she hadn't had a job recently, she found out that there was an offer coming through for a horror movie about a killer doll. She knew it was Chucky right away and thought that would be the end of her career. She and her manager ended up asking for a dollar amount that they didn't think the producers would go for. She liked the idea of working with director Ronnie Yu, but knew that a friend of hers wanted the part and didn't think the production would agree to her salary quote. To her surprise, they did agree, and Jennifer Tilly entered the Chucky universe.
I hope you left room for dessert.
You know it, Pookie.
Her writings indicate that the work she did on set was difficult because of the uncomfortable clothing they put her in, an awkward dance scene, and a killer migraine, but she mostly enjoyed the experience. Most of her work was done in the recording studio with Brad Dourif, and she seems to have had a blast working with him. After running into Dourif on a plane, the two agreed that working on a Chucky movie was a pretty sweet gig. Despite the success of Bride of Chucky, it wasn't until November 2004 that Seed of Chucky was released. Don Mancini started writing it immediately following the release of Bride. But the horrific massacre at Columbine High School made the studio nervous since the film featured murderous parents trying to bring their child into the family business. As producer Corey Cianiga pointed out in the making-of featurette Conceiving the Seed of Chucky, Bride embraced the inherent silliness of the concept and pushed the humor and horror together. That same sensibility is supercharged in Seed. As the filmmakers blatantly mocked themselves by making the movie about Jennifer Tilly starring in a Chucky movie as Tiffany, with the actual Tiffany trying to transfer her soul into the actress's body.
I want to be Jennifer Tilly. I want to be a star.
The iconic John Waters was brought into the film because of his love for the Chucky character. Mancini found out about that love when Justin Whalen, who played Andy in Child's Play 3, worked on Waters' film Serial Mom, and discovered that he had a Chucky doll in his bathroom. Rap artist Redman plays himself in the film as well. Mancini liked his performance but mentioned that he initially imagined Quentin Tarantino in that slot. Seed of Chucky is a special installment in the series as it sees Mancini stepping up as writer and director for the first time. It also made Chucky a father of a gender-fluid child with dual personalities named Glen and Glenda, a kind of representation that would continue later in the franchise. Jennifer Tilly's diary was also included with the special features of Seed of Chucky. She was excited to return, but money negotiations got in the way. When she heard that they might replace her with an actress from Baywatch, she signed on. She details some of the strife Mancini experienced trying to get the movie made. Not only did the school shooting give the studio cold feet, but Mancini's script made them nervous as well. They felt the script was too funny, too gay, and there was too much Tilly. She of course took offense to that last one. Apparently the studio wanted a scary movie and not a farce, so the film was shelved. She attended the premiere of Freddy vs. Jason with Mancini to support their friend Ronnie Yu. And because Mancini felt that if the film was a success, it would get Seed of Chucky greenlit. Seed indeed got the green light the next day. Tilly's experience on the film was significantly harder. Playing a version of herself was much more demanding. The technical aspect of the puppet work was far more rigorous, and the shooting process was generally grueling. Both she and Mancini joked about not returning for a sequel at one point because they were so exhausted by the production. However, when Tilly rapped on the film, Everyone on set cheered and applauded her performance so much that she cried with gratitude. It was another 9 years before we saw another Chucky movie. During that time, Don Mancini and David Kirshner explored the possibility of rebooting the series and remaking the first film. However, confusion about the rights to that 1988 film and the waning interest in horror remakes made them decide to reset the tone of the series rather than the entire franchise. 2013's Curse of Chucky is a darker, more atmospheric, and even scarier movie than its immediate predecessors. Part of that tone is communicated by the set itself. Mancini set the majority of the film on an old Victorian-style house that he needed to be what he described as a reflection of the characters' lives. The movie was filmed in Winnipeg, and while the spooky interior of the house was created in a studio, the exterior was actually a bed and breakfast that Mancini found online after Googling Manitoba Victorian architecture. Not only does the film tie back to the legacy of the previous entries by bringing back Jennifer Tilly and Alex Vincent in the finale, but Brad Dourif's daughter, Fiona Dourif, was cast as a kind, wheelchair-bound character, Nika. Mancini auditioned a lot of actresses for the part, but none of them nailed the role like Fiona, proving it wasn't nepotism, even though her dad was very happy that she joined the cast. Only 4 years passed before Cult of Chucky was released. The 2017 sequel picked up where Curse ended. Andy has captured a Chucky doll that he can make suffer for all the trauma the evil toy has put him through. Nika, meanwhile, is locked away in an asylum. The setting was appealing to Mancini because he felt that if an inmate at this kind of facility were to suddenly claim that a doll was talking to them, no one would believe it. The movie also takes a leap that Mancini has been trying to do for a while, which is a concept of multiple versions of Chucky.
Now I can be me and me and me.
By possessing multiple good guy dolls, Charles Lee Ray is able to cover more ground and wreak more havoc than previously seen. This presented several technical challenges, of course. Luckily, the film was extensively storyboarded, meaning the puppeteers and the rest of the crew had a detailed blueprint of how to make everything work. In one of the biggest cliffhanger endings in the series thus far, Chucky passes his soul into Nika's body. For the first time in decades, Charles Lee Ray has a human body again, and this time he is played by Fiona Dourif. The rights to the original Child's Play were owned by two studios, MGM and Universal. An Australian businessman named Christopher Skays attempted to purchase MGM in 1989, but was not interested in horror movies. So the studio gave Kirshner the rights to the sequels and shared the rights to the original film. Kirshner went on with the help of Steven Spielberg to get Child's Play 2 and the other Kirshner-produced sequels set up at Universal. MGM still had the rights to do whatever it wanted with the concepts and characters featured in the original Child's Play, and the idea of a remake arose. They approached Mancini and Kirshner to see if they were interested, but they both turned it down. They were still actively working on developing the Chucky series, and didn't like the idea of the market suddenly becoming confused. If anything, Mancini was straight up offended. The movie cast Mark Hamill as the voice of Chucky and changed the lore almost entirely, with no connection to the other films whatsoever outside of character names. Mancini and Kirshner expanded Chucky's world even further in the TV series Chucky, which premiered in 2021 on USA Network and Sci-Fi. Instead of just picking things up from the ending of Curse of Chucky, the focus moved to Charles Lee Ray's hometown of Hackensack, New Jersey. This show made a conscious effort to move into the realm of young adult fiction by having Chucky manipulate a teenage, gay character named Jake Wheeler. Their relationship mirrors Mancini's blood buddy concept, with Chucky intentionally going after the people who make Jake's life difficult. The LGBTQ+ representation is also front and center. Jake's relationship with his classmate Devon is a kind of honest depiction of a young gay romance that Mancini said he has always wanted to see. The first season explores Charles's origin, with Fiona Dourif playing a young Charles Lee Ray and meeting the character of Tiffany for the first time. Fiona also returns as Nika, still possessed by a Chucky personality. Andy Barclay was also back, alongside his foster sister Kyle, with the two of them hunting down as many Chucky dolls as possible. After the events of Season 1, Jake goes to live with a new family and has a new foster brother named Gary. Unfortunately, this new life doesn't last long. Chucky tracks down Jake and kills his foster brother with an explosive. This leads to Jake, Devon, and their enemy-turned-friend Lexi being blamed for his death. They're sent to a Catholic rehabilitation clinic called the School of the Incarnate Lord. The twist is that the school is in the same building that used to be the boarding school where Charles Lee Ray grew up. By setting much of Season 2's story in the same building where Charles grew up, Chucky sets out to bring the Child's Play franchise full circle by further exploring Charles's upbringing and helping audiences learn more about the events that led to him becoming the Lakeshore Strangler. The season delves into his relationship with his childhood psychiatrist, Dr. Mixter, who nurtures his murderous ways rather than trying to subdue them.
When I first met you, when you were 7, there was a strain of innocence in you, despite your more interesting qualities.
This relationship between psychopath and psychiatrist is a staple of many stories surrounding fictional serial killers. Dr. Mixter's nurturing of Charles's violent behaviors mirrors that of many other psychiatrist and killer relationships in television, such as Evelyn Vogel's relationship with Dexter in Dexter. The third episode of Season 2, Hail Mary, introduces a concept never before seen in the Child's Play franchise. Is it possible for there to be a good Chucky? After all, Chucky is part of a line of dolls called Good Guys. In Hail Mary, Jake and his friends test this theory out. They capture a Chucky that's scouting them, but he refuses to reveal anything about the other Chucky's plans. So they tie him down, pry his eyes open in a very clear homage to A Clockwork Orange, and use aversion therapy to try to make Chucky docile and more receptive to their suggestions. Shockingly, the plan actually works. Or at least, it seems to. The doll begins going by the name Good Chucky and helps defend the teens from the more evil Chuckies. Interestingly, this is not the first time that creator Don Mancini had the idea to introduce a Good Chucky. Mancini revealed that he'd originally come up with the idea for Seed of Chucky, but the concept never made it into the film. However, he felt like the show's second season was the perfect time to bring Good Chucky to life, since the Catholic setting allowed for a thematic focus on redemption. Chucky might still have it out for the show's leading trio of teenagers, but his feud with Tiffany is arguably the homicidal doll's primary focus, especially as the second season comes to a close. Chucky and his ex-wife have a complicated past, and ever since her introduction in Bride of Chucky, Tiffany has shaken up the dynamic between Chucky and his victims. The feud between the two opens a door for some wacky antics, including scenes where Tiffany is mistaken for actress Jennifer Tilly, who also exists in the world of Chucky. She attends a surprise party thrown for her that also includes her sister, Meg Tilly. The real-life Jennifer Tilly revealed that it was the first time she'd worked with her sister since high school.
You remember that time in high school when we snuck out to meet with the Dean brothers?
Yes.
What were their names?
The twin children of Chucky and Tiffany, Glen and Glenda, also play an important role in the show. Originally in Seed of Chucky, Glen and Glenda's personalities inhabited one doll. The Glen personality was benevolent, while Glenda murderous. The film ends up splitting the personalities between two human children, a choice that has long been controversial. However, in Chucky, Mancini aims to create a story that embraces queer representation and eventually has the twins return to the Glen/Glenda doll as one merged being, now going by the name of Gigi. Mancini told Gizmodo, "It was really important to us that we honor the trans experience through our own cockeyed metaphorical lens.